What's the saying with NHL coaches? Coaches in all sports, really. They're hired to be fired. Not true. Not true at all. Coaches are hired to win championships. Specifically, in the sport of hockey, the National Hockey League, they're hired to win the Stanley Cup. If it looks like they have no shot at that, then they get fired. And ironically, after last season when very few coaches were fired, it looks like a bunch of them are already in the hot seat, and we're not even out of October yet. Going to be handed their walking papers before they get handed their candy. What would Mike Yeo dress up as? But anyway, here are the NHL coaches who I think are already in the hot seat. First and foremost, we'll start with the guy who said he should be in the hot seat, Mike Yeo. And if you don't believe me, here's exactly what he said.
Heck, my job should be in question right now. You know, of course, that comes with the trade. But I'm not going to coach to try to save my job. I'm going to coach to try to win a Stanley Cup.
Really? Actually, no. I've seen a lot of people criticize Mike Yeo for saying this. Don't. It was my favorite tactic for getting out of trouble in the 3rd grade. You know, Principal, I did TP the classroom, but no one is more disappointed in myself than I am. Now, we tend to write people off online a little too quickly. I mean, there is a shot at redemption he's got here. The season is barely 10% done. But with just 2 wins to start the season so far, they got some work to do. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The St. Louis Blues, I expected to be a Stanley Cup contender, like a top 5 team. They had a spectacular summer. After all, they did get Ryan O'Reilly. Oh, that guy. Because what is the Jack Adams Trophy really? Yeah, it's technically for Coach of the Year, but we all know that's not really what it is. The Jack Adams is basically the "we expected your team to be worse than they were" award. Case in point, Gerard Gallant won it with the Vegas Golden Knights, a team that we all expected to finish like what? Bottom 5? Last? And forget making it to the Stanley Cup final. They were one of the top teams in the regular season. They were first place for a solid chunk as well. Jared Bednar, another nominee for the Jack Adams. Coach of the Colorado Avalanche, who were coming off a 47-point season. Kinda bad. 48 points. Heavens, I'm sorry. Sorry to rob you of that 1 point. That's terrible. They made the playoffs. Hey, guess what? You're good again. You must be the Coach of the Year, even though you were the coach who was there when they sucked. What did you learn over the summer? Tell us. I'm not trying to diminish the award, but that is sort of what it is, isn't it? Well, the award for being the opposite, a team who is expected to contend and then is not good, is you're fired. The Blues were expected to contend. So far they are not. You might get fired. I was talking amongst my friends, my colleagues, about some other coaches who might be in the hot seat. Jeff Blashill is an interesting name. He was sort of this up-and-coming coach, like, oh, see you later, Mike Babcock. We won't even need you because we got this guy. Red Wings make the playoffs, first series coach. Ha! See, I told you. And now they're kind of bad. But heading into the season, the Red Wings' expectations were a lot different than the Blues. Are you really going to fire a coach for doing poorly in a year you were supposed to do poorly? The trouble with him is he's been there a while. You worry about things getting stale. I'm not convinced he's going to get fired, though. Not yet, anyway. Maybe a coach who's a little bit more similar to Mike Yeo's situation would be John Stevens in LA. I didn't read a whole bunch of people saying they were supposed to contend. Everyone talks about 2014 when they did win the Stanley Cup like it was yesterday. No, by the time the playoffs roll around, that will have been half a decade ago. And funny enough, the team is half a decade older. And added Ilya Kovalchuk, who is good, but old. And this is the problem. Old teams are expected to win. It's difficult to sell ownership on the potential of a 35-year-old. And as of right now, the Kings are in second last in the league. But at least they have the fallback of, well, you know Jonathan Quick was hurt, right? Well, you know, it is early in the season. Hot seat? I don't know about that, but they might have turned the seat warmers on. Todd McClellan in Edmonton is a name that often gets brought up. They made it to the 2nd round a couple years ago. They pushed the Ducks to the brink, almost made the 3rd round, and ever since they've been just trying to grasp back at that. And again, McClellan was the guy there who he did that. He was there. He was also there when they were bad last year. But now, similar to Blashill in a way, you got a guy who's been there a few years. Expectations are high. He's coaching the best player in the world. We can argue back and forth about the supporting cast, but they have Connor McDavid. People are criticizing McClellan for, playing McDavid too much, you're going to burn him out, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is there like, I'm his line mate, I'm playing a lot too. But if you were McClellan, wouldn't you? Maybe the problem is someone else? But heavens no, you can't say that on the internet. Do I want to suggest an Adam Larson for William Nylander trade, or do I want to have a good day? But the Oilers have still been doing fine. Not great, but fine. I don't think McClellan is in any kind of trouble just yet. There is a guy who might not be in the hot seat just yet, but his goalie is kind of keeping him out of it. And stop me if you've heard this before, Randy Carlyle. John Gibson is easily the best goalie in the league right now, hands down, bar none. I won't hear it. What about this guy? What about that guy? No. John Gibson is pretty much the only reason the Ducks have won anything. They set a record for most shots against in a period in like the first week of the season, second week, and that's fine. Teams have made the playoffs like that. They've won Stanley Cups like that. But if Gibson gets hurt, if the Ducks start getting guys back from injury, because that was a bit of an excuse for a while, and they still don't improve, I wonder how much time Randy Carlyle 2.0 has in Anaheim. Randyheim? Is that what we want to call it? I wonder how much time that has left. Randyheim! It's a thing. We're not redoing it. So he's a guy who's sort of getting saved by his goalies. I want to end with three guys who are totally being hung out to dry by their goalies. Stop me if you've heard this before. Bill Peters. He had a nightmare of a time getting anyone to make a save in Carolina. Goes to Calgary. Oh, we got Mike Smith there. It'll be much better.
Crosby working down the right side. Backhand. Scores! Richter, stopped by Smith. No, it's in. Rush, stopped by Smith. Scores on the rebound. Second chance. Scores. Horquist scores. And away on a breakaway. Phil Kessel scores. Plays it across. Johnson scores. Out front, they score. There's a chance for Cullen. Scores!
Get stomped 9-1 by Pittsburgh. That's just one game. The problem is it was going bad before that. And I saw a lot of people online like, well, maybe you shouldn't have traded Dougie Hamilton. Not everyone was happy with those trades when they happened. Well, the problem is the guys who make those trades, they get a buffer, don't they? Typically, they get to fire the coach to buy some time. The problem is he just hired this guy. So if Treliving admits to making a mistake by hiring Bill Peters, it looks pretty bad. Just like the Flames, they look pretty bad right now. But goalies, sometimes they have ups and downs. I'd say right now they're at a low simmer, a Chinook. Is it too early for a Chinook? It feels like it, I don't know. Sometimes I just throw words out and I don't know, the internet will correct me. So because he's so new, I don't think Bill Peters is gonna get fired. The two guys who might actually pay the price of their team's terrible goaltending, Bob Boughner in Florida and Dave Haxtell in Philadelphia. Some people, I'm just going to go ahead and point at me, thought that the Panthers could potentially be third in the Atlantic. Not just make the playoffs like in a wild card, but make the playoffs. They cannot get a save to save their lives. Luongo was great last season. He goes down to injury early. And then you get Reimer and Hutchison, and it's never good when you got to click to the second page to see what their save percentage is. Oh, you got to click the second page with those guys right now. If I'm not mistaken, the other night when I was doing ice surfing, Hutchison was 57th out of 62 goalies in save percentage, and after that game, he was worse. It's not going good. And it's no fault of Boughner's, but it's a little bit of goalie revenge in a way. You know how sometimes coaches will just yank a goalie, change them to, kick their team in the butt and sort of wake them up? Well, sometimes a GM might just fire their coach to wake his team up. It's not fair, but it's happened a bunch of times. And Haxtell in Philly, he'll probably be all right. Yeah, they're sort of looking for an answer in net, but they're always looking for an answer in net, aren't they? How are you going to fire a guy for something you haven't had figured out since the 90s? How many cups could Philly have won if they just had a guy? Try Gritty. See that? How I mentioned Gritty? I get a lot of internet points for that. So I mentioned 8 coaches who may or may not be in the hot seat. I'd love to know what you know down in the comments section below. Who do you think will be the first coach fired this season? Because it's almost always somebody, isn't it? I'm going to answer Mike Yeo because Mike Yeo thinks it's Mike Yeo. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off. So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends to not tell your boss that you should be fired. That seems like a bad strategy.